3 years ago, I bought a quiet little house in the countryside, right near some beautiful ski slopes. It was perfect for me, peaceful, away from the chaos of the city, and ideal for working remotely as an app developer. I'd never been much of a social person anyway. Growing up, I was always the quiet one in my family. My older brother, Jason, was the golden child, the athlete, the charming one, married to his high school sweetheart, Clara. They had 2 kids, Noah 7 and Lily 5, both little balls of energy. Then there was my younger sister, Olivia, the social butterfly, married to her college boyfriend, Matt, with their 3-year-old daughter, Sophie. My parents, newly retired, had turned micromanaging into a hobby, still treating us like we were kids who needed constant supervision. When I casually mentioned my new house to them, I should have known better. The moment the words left my mouth, my mom's face lit up with an idea I would regret forever. A house near ski slopes? That's perfect. You should host Christmas this year, she said, clapping her hands together like she had just solved world hunger. I nearly dropped my coffee. I don't know, Mom. It's not that big, and I'm not exactly set up for hosting. Nonsense, Dad chimed in. You spend too much time alone with that computer of yours. It'll be good for you to have some company. Yeah, come on, Meg, Jason added. The kids would love it. It'll be fun. Fun, right? I hesitated, but after weeks of persistent nudging, I gave in. I figured it was one Christmas. How bad could it be? Maybe it would even be nice to have everyone together for the holidays. As December rolled in, I worked extra hours to get ahead on projects, knowing I wouldn't get much done once my house turned into a circus. The holiday season was my busiest time. Every client wanted their app ready before the Christmas rush of new devices. The closer we got to the 25th, the clearer it became that I wouldn't have time to cook the kind of massive feast my mother expected. So I made the smartest decision possible. I called the best local restaurant and ordered their full holiday package: turkey, ham, sides, desserts, everything. It cost a fortune, but I figured it was worth the peace of mind. The day my family arrived, it was like watching a reality show unfold in my driveway. Cars packed to the brim with luggage, ski gear, and children tumbled onto my property. The moment my mom stepped inside, she gasped dramatically. "Oh, Megan, this place is gorgeous. I can't believe you live here all by yourself." I forced a smile. "Thanks, Mom. Let me show you around." The tour lasted all of 5 minutes. My house wasn't huge, just a modest 3-bedroom place. Since I had converted one of the bedrooms into my office, most of my family would be sleeping on air mattresses and pull-out couches. Mom barely paid attention to the layout before asking, "So, where's Christmas dinner?" I gestured toward the kitchen. I ordered everything from Pine Valley Restaurant. "It's being delivered tomorrow morning." Her face fell as if I had just told her Santa wasn't real. "Restaurant food? For Christmas?" "I've been swamped with work, Mom. I didn't have time to." "A good hostess would have made time," she interrupted, her lips pursed in disapproval. I bit my tongue. There was no point in arguing. She had never understood my career. To her, it was just a silly little hobby I did on a laptop. Despite my mother's sulking, Christmas dinner went surprisingly well. Everyone seemed to enjoy the food, though Mom made a few pointed comments about how nothing beats homemade cooking. After dinner, we exchanged gifts. I had spent weeks carefully picking out the perfect presents. Jason got the latest gaming console. Claire, a designer handbag. Olivia and Matt, some expensive artwork for their new house. My parents, a luxury weekend getaway. The kids each got exactly what they had been asking for. In return, I received a scarf from Olivia, a pair of socks from Jason and Claire, a coffee mug from my parents that said "World's Best Aunt." "We all pitched in together," Mom said, beaming. "We thought it would be more meaningful that way." I forced a smile, swallowing the irritation creeping up my throat. "That's really thoughtful. Thanks." The days after Christmas were pure chaos. The kids used my house as their personal playground, sprinting up and down the stairs, spilling juice on my rugs, and scattering their toys everywhere. The adults spent their days skiing, only returning home to expect more restaurant meals that I continued to pay for without complaint. Not once did anyone offer to clean. Dishes piled in the sink. Wet towels were left in the bathrooms. Clothes and random belongings were draped over every available surface. My once peaceful home now looked like a disaster zone. One morning, as I tried to squeeze in an hour of work, My dad walked into my office. "Megan, we're out of coffee. There's a grocery store 10 minutes away," I said without looking up from my screen. "Well, we don't know the area," he said, crossing his arms, "and we're all getting ready to go skiing." I glanced up at him, standing there in the brand new ski jacket I had bought him for Christmas. "You've got to be kidding me. I'll go after I finish this section," I said, attempting to stay patient. "We wanted coffee before heading out," he pressed. I sighed, closed my laptop, grabbed my keys, and headed to the store while my family continued getting ready for their fun-filled day. As I drove, gripping the steering wheel a little too tightly, I had a sinking realization. This wasn't just a one-time inconvenience. This was the beginning of a nightmare. By New Year's Eve, I was running on fumes. Between cleaning up after everyone, making grocery runs, and pretending not to hear my mother's endless critiques about how things should be done, I hadn't had a moment to breathe. And work? Completely neglected. Every time I tried to steal a quiet moment in my office, someone would come knocking. "Megan, where's the extra toilet paper? Megan, do you have a spare phone charger? Megan, can you watch the kids for a sec?" "No, Olivia, I cannot watch the kids for a sec. I have a job." I hadn't even had coffee that morning because, despite my trip to the store, my family had wiped out the entire supply in a day. They weren't just drinking it, they were bathing in it, for all I knew. That night, as the clock struck midnight, my mom raised her glass with a bright smile. "This has been so wonderful. We should make it a tradition." I nearly choked on my champagne. A tradition? The next morning, everyone packed up their bags, shoved their ski gear into their cars, and loaded up the kids. Finally. But as they said their goodbyes, I noticed something. Not one of them stripped a bed. Not one of them washed a dish. Not one of them even attempted to clean up the tornado they had left behind. "Thanks for everything, Meg," Jason said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Best Christmas ever." Mom kissed my cheek. "See you next year." And then, just like that, they were gone. I stood in my destroyed living room, surrounded by crumbs, discarded wrapping paper, and a sticky juice spill on my coffee table. I wanted to scream. Instead, I picked up a trash bag and started cleaning. The months passed quickly. Work picked up. My house was finally back to its peaceful state, and I almost convinced myself that last Christmas was a one-time disaster. Mom and Dad would call occasionally, but they never brought up Christmas again. Good. Maybe they'd forgotten about it. Then, exactly 2 weeks before Christmas, my phone rang. Mom's voice was extra cheerful. "Megan, we're so excited for Christmas this year." My stomach dropped. "Wait, what?" "We're coming back to your place, of course. Everyone had such a great time last year. I already told Jason and Olivia, and they're so excited." I blinked. "Mom, you never asked me if I was hosting again." "Oh, don't be silly. You love it when we visit." I opened my mouth to argue, but before I could, she hit me with, "Anyway, we'll see you soon. Gotta run." Click. I stared at my phone. They were doing it again. A week later, a full 7 days before I expected them, my phone buzzed. "Jason, hey, we're on the way." "Be there for dinner." I nearly dropped my coffee mug. "What?" Frantically, I called my mom. "You're coming today?" "Oh, I meant to tell you. The kids got out of school early, and we all managed to get extra time off work." "Isn't that great?" No, it was not great." "But I thought you were coming on the 23rd, I protested. "Oh, come on, Megan," she laughed. "We're family. What's a few extra days?" 7 hours later, my driveway filled with cars, and my house was invaded all over again. Mom was the first through the door. "Oh dear, you haven't decorated yet?" I gritted my teeth. I was going to do it this weekend, because I wasn't expecting anyone until next week. She waved dismissively. "Well, it's good we got here early to help." Spoiler alert, she did not help. Instead, she sat on the couch and gave instructions while I did all the work. Meanwhile, the kids were already wrecking the place, pulling out toys and scattering them across the floor. Then Mom made a dramatic sigh. "There's nothing to eat in this house." I inhaled slowly, because I was planning to shop this weekend. "Oh, well, let's just order from that nice restaurant again," she said. I sighed and handed over my credit card. "Fine, just the essentials, okay? I've already spent a lot this week." Mom patted my cheek like I was 12. "Don't worry about money during the holidays, dear. Family is what matters." 2 hours later, she returned with bags upon bags of gourmet food, 3 expensive bottles of wine, and a receipt that made my stomach turn. Mom, this is way more than we need. Well, when I'm on vacation, I like to enjoy myself, she said, unpacking the bags. Besides, I never get to relax at home. There's always so much cooking and cleaning to do. I nearly laughed. How tragic for you, Mom. Must be exhausting to do all that work in your own home. Christmas morning arrived, and once again, I had ordered the full holiday meal. It cost even more this year, but watching my family dig in with happy faces almost made it worth it. After dinner, we exchanged gifts. Again, I had spent weeks picking out thoughtful presents. A drone for Jason, something he'd been talking about for months. Designer winter boots for Claire, a spa package for Olivia, a high-end watch for Matt, toys the kids had specifically asked for. And for my parents, a weekend at a luxury mountain resort. Then it was my turn. Mom handed me a medium-sized box, beaming. This is from all of us. I opened it and found a coffee maker, not a high-end one, not something fancy, just a basic model you could pick up on sale at any department store. The price tag was still half stuck on the bottom. Olivia grinned. We all pitched in because we know how much you love coffee. I forced a smile, biting my tongue. I had already owned a perfectly fine coffee maker, one they had been using all week. That evening, as everyone relaxed, I found myself alone in the kitchen, scrubbing dishes. Again, I had been cleaning up after them all week. I had paid for everything, and yet, not a single person had lifted a finger to help. As I stood there, wrist deep in soapy water, Olivia strolled in. She looked around and said, "Wow, this place is a mess." I turned to her, gripping the sponge tightly. "Yeah," I said, "it is." She grabbed a wine glass, poured herself a drink, and asked, "Hey, is there any of that chocolate cake left from yesterday?" That was the moment I snapped. I stared at Olivia, gripping the sponge so tightly my knuckles turned white. She had just walked into my kitchen. My kitchen looked around at the disaster zone she had contributed to, and instead of offering to help, she asked for cake. I let out a slow breath. "Olivia, would you mind helping me with these dishes?" She blinked, as if I had just suggested she walk barefoot through the snow. "Seriously? I'm on vacation, Megan. The kids are finally settled watching a movie. I just wanted to relax for a bit." I set the sponge down carefully, turning to face her fully. "I'm on vacation too, or at least I was supposed to be. But I've spent this entire week working, cleaning, cooking, and paying for everything. And no one not once has thought to help me." She rolled her eyes. "It's your house. You can't expect guests to clean." I folded my arms. I can expect family to pitch in, especially when they invited themselves and treated my home like a free hotel. Her expression darkened. "You know what? I'll go get Mom." Minutes later, she returned with Mom in tow, both wearing identical looks of disapproval. "Megan," Mom started, crossing her arms. "Your sister tells me you're upset about the housework." "Upset? Upset?" I was one drop dish away from completely losing it. "I'm not upset," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I'm exhausted. I've been hosting all of you for days, paying for every meal, cleaning up after everyone, and not a single person has thought to help me. And when I ask for the bare minimum, Olivia acts like I've just asked her to build me a house with her bare hands." Mom pursed her lips. "We're guests, Megan. When you invite people into your home, you should be hospitable. It's not polite to expect guests to do chores." I let out a humorless laugh. "Guests? You didn't even ask if you could come early. You showed up a full week before I expected you. You didn't even check if I was okay with hosting again. And on top of that, you've treated me like staff while I foot the bill for everything." Mom scoffed. "If you didn't want to host, you should have just said no." I stared at her, completely speechless. "No," I repeated. "You never gave me a choice. You just decided and informed me after the fact. And when I did try to push back, you brushed me off like it didn't matter." Mom let out an exasperated sigh. "Megan, this attitude of yours is really uncalled for. You're making such a big deal over nothing. Nothing. Nothing." I looked between her and Olivia, both standing there like I was the problem. "You know what?" I said, shaking my head. "Forget it. Just go. I'll clean up myself. Like always." Mom huffed but turned away, Olivia right behind her. As they walked out, I heard Olivia mutter, "She's always been dramatic." That night, I barely slept. I was too angry, too tired. I had tried to be patient. I had swallowed my irritation for days. I had given them everything, and in return, they had treated me like nothing. I was done. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a weight had settled on my chest. I knew I had to work. I was already behind, but the idea of sitting at my computer while my family continued their vacation in my house made my blood boil. Still, I tried. I locked myself in my office, put on noise-canceling headphones, and started coding. I lasted exactly 20 minutes before I heard the door creak open. I spun around to find Noah standing there, eyes wide. "Aunt Meg, can we play a game on your computer?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. "No, buddy. This is my work computer. It has really important files on it, but we're bored," Lily whined, peeking in behind him. "Where are your parents?" I asked. "Mom said to find something quiet to do," Noah said, already eyeing my mouse. I took a deep breath. "Guys, this isn't a place to play. Go find your mom and dad." They groaned but shuffled out. I locked the door behind them. 15 minutes later, there was a loud knock. "Megan, open up." It was Olivia. I opened the door to find her standing there, arms crossed, the kids at her side. "Did you yell at them?" she accused. I blinked. "What?" "No, I just told them they couldn't play on my work computer." She scoffed. "You really can't take a break for 5 minutes to play with your niece and nephew?" I stared at her, completely dumbfounded. "Olivia, I am working. This isn't me playing Candy Crush. This is my job. A job I've been completely neglecting because I've been cleaning up after all of you." She rolled her eyes. "You're being so dramatic." And that was it. I snapped. "You know what, Olivia? This is why I'm alone. Because I don't let people walk all over me. Because I don't let people take advantage of me and call it family." Her mouth fell open. "Well," she sputtered, "just well." She turned on her heel and marched off, the kids trailing behind her. That night, at dinner, the tension was thick. No one spoke until Mom cleared her throat. "Megan, Olivia told us what you said earlier," she started, giving me that look. "I think you owe her an apology." I laughed under my breath. "An apology? For what?" "For making her feel like she's not welcome here," Mom said, as if it were obvious. I set my fork down. "She's not welcome here. None of you are. Not if you're going to keep treating me like a free hotel." Mom gasped. "Megan." "No, I'm serious," I said, voice steady. "You don't respect my time. You don't respect my space. And you certainly don't respect me." Jason sighed. "Meg, you're overreacting." I shook my head. "You know what? I'm done. This is the last Christmas I'm hosting. Ever." Silence. Then Mom shook her head. "We'll talk about this later. You'll feel differently once you calm down." But I didn't calm down. I went to bed that night knowing, with absolute certainty, that things had to change. And this time, I was going to be the one to change them. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. Lying there in my bed, staring at the ceiling, I realized something my family was never going to change. They weren't going to suddenly wake up and start respecting my space, my time, or my effort. The only person who could change anything was me. So, I got up, got dressed, and did something I should have done last year. I made a list. Not a grocery list, not a to-do list, a rules list. By the time I walked into the kitchen, my family was already lounging around like they were in some all-inclusive resort. Dad was reading the paper, Mom was sipping coffee, and Jason and Olivia were scrolling through their phones while the kids turned my living room into a disaster zone. I cleared my throat. Morning. No one even looked up. Fine. Time for the nuclear option. I grabbed a wooden spoon and banged it against the counter. "Attention, everyone." That got their heads up. Jason frowned. "Geez, Meg, what's with the drama?" I smiled sweetly. "Oh, no drama. Just a little morning announcement." I held up my list. "I've put together some new house rules." Mom sighed. "Megan, no, Mom," I cut in. "We're doing this. Now." I took a deep breath. "Rule number 1, if you make a mess, you clean it up. That includes dishes, laundry, toys, everything. I am not your maid." Silence. "Rule number 2, I continued. If you want to eat, you contribute. Either cook, help with cleanup, or shockingly pay for some meals." Olivia scoffed. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious." Jason smirked like this was all a joke. "And if we don't?" I smiled. "Then you're welcome to find somewhere else to stay." Mom gasped. "Megan, this is family. No, this is fair." Dad, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke up. "Meg, you know we appreciate everything you do." "No, Dad, you don't. If you did, I wouldn't have to write rules just to get basic respect." Olivia shook her head. Wow, you're really doing this, huh? I crossed my arms. I am. Jason exhaled loudly. Fine. Whatever. If it means that much to you, we'll help out. I arched a brow. Actually help? Or help the way you did last year, where you rinsed one plate and called it a day. Jason muttered something under his breath but didn't argue. Mom was still fuming. You're being so ungracious. Call it what you want, I said, folding up the list. But this is how it's going to be. Period. Then I walked out of the kitchen, leaving them to stew in their own disbelief. The first day under the new rules was glorious. Jason and Olivia tried to act like the rules didn't apply to them, but I simply stopped picking up after them. When Jason left his plate in the sink, I left it there. When Olivia let the kids scatter their toys across the house, I made her pick them up before bed. By day 2, reality hit. Mom, Noah whined, tugging at Olivia's sleeve. Where's breakfast? She barely looked up from her phone. Ask Aunt Meg. I sipped my coffee. Aunt Meg is off duty. Jason let out a frustrated sigh and stomped into the kitchen. 15 minutes later, he emerged with a pitiful-looking pile of scrambled eggs. Mom was livid. You're making your brother cook his own breakfast? She hissed at me when we were alone. I shrugged. Looks like he survived. She narrowed her eyes. This isn't how families work. Oh, you mean the way families should respect each other? Help each other? Not treat one person like free labor? She pursed her lips but said nothing. Progress. By the time New Year's Eve rolled around, the mood had shifted. Jason and Olivia had actually started pulling their weight. Dishes were getting done. Toys were getting picked up. And best of all, I wasn't paying for everything. But there was still one final test. That night, as we all sat in the living room, champagne glasses in hand, Mom turned to me with a smile that made my stomach drop. This has been so lovely, she said. We should do this again next year. My eye twitched, but this time I was ready. I set my glass down and took a deep breath. Mom, I love you, but this is the last Christmas I'm hosting. Silence. Mom blinked. Oh, don't be silly. I'm not being silly. I cut in. I'm being serious. I've hosted twice. I've been exhausted both times. And while this year has been slightly better, I'm done. Next year, you guys can host, or rent a cabin, or do anything else, but not at my house. Mom looked genuinely stunned. But we love coming here. I nodded. That's great. But I don't. Olivia smirked into her glass. Oof, that's brutal. Jason just sipped his drink like he wanted no part of this conversation. Mom turned to Dad for backup, but to my shock, he just shrugged. It's her house, dear. I nearly choked on my drink. Mom let out a breath, still clearly upset, but she nodded. Fine. And just like that, it was over. The next morning, as everyone packed up, something wild happened. They cleaned. Beds were stripped. Dishes were washed. Jason even vacuumed. By the time they were ready to leave, my house looked normal. Mom hugged me tightly at the door. We'll miss you next year. I smiled. I'll miss you too. But I won't miss the mess. She rolled her eyes but smiled. You know, you could have just said something sooner. I stared at her, debating whether to remind her that I had multiple times but decided against it. Instead, I just hugged her back. As they all piled into their cars, Jason called out, Hey Meg. Yeah? He smirked. Next year, we're picking Olivia's house. Olivia's face dropped. Wait, what? I grinned. Have fun, live. And with that, they drove away. I stepped back inside, closed the door, and let out the longest, deepest sigh of relief. For the first time in 2 years, Christmas had actually ended on my terms. And damn, it felt amazing. For the first time since buying my house, I had peace. No piles of dirty dishes, no screaming kids running up and down the stairs, no one demanding coffee at sunrise like I was running a bed and breakfast. Just silence, a clean living room, and my bank account not hemorrhaging money on overpriced restaurant meals. It felt amazing. The weeks after my family left were pure bliss. I got back into my work routine without interruption. I took long hikes without checking my phone every 5 minutes. And best of all, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. But of course, the peace didn't last. Because 2 months before Christmas, my phone started blowing up. It started with a single notification. Olivia posted a new photo. I tapped it, expecting the usual, maybe a picture of her kid or some aesthetic latte shot. Nope. It was a photo of her kids in their snow gear, beaming at the camera with the caption, "Getting ready for our annual Christmas ski trip at Aunt Megan's." My stomach dropped. Oh, hell, no. I scrolled through the comments, my pulse pounding. Jason, can't wait. Best tradition ever. Mom, so excited. This year will be even better. Cousin Jen, I'd love to come this time. We should do a big family Christmas. Aunt Laura, count us in. We'll bring wine. My hands shook as I stared at the screen. They thought I was joking. After everything, the rules, the boundaries, the very clear conversation where I said I wasn't hosting again, they still assumed I'd cave. No, not this time. I didn't call Olivia. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I went straight to my own social media and typed, "Public service announcement. I am not hosting Christmas this year. I repeat, no one is invited to my house for the holidays. Make other plans." I hit post, turned off my phone, and went for a hike. When I got back, I had over 30 missed notifications. Mom, Megan, what is this? Jason, LOL. Okay, Meg. Very funny. Olivia, Cousin Jen, wait, seriously? I already told the kids we were going. I sighed. They still didn't get it. So I called Mom. The second she picked up, she launched into her signature mom guilt trip voice. "Megan, I was just about to call you. I have such exciting news." I rubbed my temples. "Mom, did you see my post?" "Oh, that silly thing. Of course. But don't worry, I told everyone you were just joking." I exhaled sharply. "I wasn't joking," she chuckled. "Oh, come on, Megan. We all love coming to your place." "I already told everyone, and they're so excited." "Mom, listen to me. I am not hosting this year. I'm serious. You need to tell everyone to change their plans." Silence. Then, in the most offended voice I'd ever heard, she said, "You're really going to abandon your family on Christmas?" I closed my eyes. There it is. The ultimate guilt trip. No one is being abandoned, Mom. You don't even have kids, Megan. It's easy for you to have people over. You don't understand how hard it is for parents during the holidays. I let out a humorless laugh. You know what's also hard? Being treated like an unpaid hotel staff for 2 weeks. "Oh, for heaven's sake, stop being so dramatic," she snapped. My eye twitched. "No," I said firmly. "This conversation is over. I'm not hosting. That's final." Before she could argue, I hung up. For a while, things were quiet. Too quiet. I should have known they were planning something. Because exactly 1 week before Christmas, a caravan of vehicles pulled into my driveway. Through my newly installed security cameras, I watched as 20 people, Mom, Dad, Jason, Olivia, their kids, some cousins I hadn't seen in years piled out, carrying luggage, ski gear, and way too many presents. They rang the doorbell. I didn't answer. They knocked. I stayed silent. Then my phone rang. "Dad." I sighed and picked up. "Megan, we're all here. Open up." "No," I said calmly. Silence. Then, a disbelieving laugh. "Come on, sweetheart. Don't be like this. It's Christmas. I told you I wasn't hosting. You ignored me. That's not my problem." I hung up and muted my phone. Through the cameras, I watched the chaos unfold. Mom was gesturing wildly, clearly ranting about how ungrateful I was. Olivia looked genuinely shocked. Jason was pacing like he couldn't believe this was happening. The kids were starting to get restless, making snowballs and… Wait, were they throwing them at my windows? I immediately dialed Olivia. She picked up, sounding annoyed. Finally, "Megan, what the hell? Tell your kids to stop throwing snowballs at my house. Right now. They're just playing." I took a deep breath. "I have security cameras. If they break a window, I will bill you for it." That got her attention. I watched through the cameras as she hurriedly pulled them away, whispering furiously to Jason. Then, to my utter delight, my neighbor, Mr. Peterson, an ex-cop, who took no nonsense, came walking up the driveway. He talked to them for a few minutes, and then my phone rang again. "Megan, Mr. Peterson said, your family says you've locked them out. Everything okay?" "Yep," I said. "I told them not to come. They ignored me." He sighed. "Well, they're causing a disturbance. If they don't leave soon, I'll have to call the police." I grinned. "I completely understand." A few minutes later, Mr. Peterson relayed my message to my family. Mom's face, it was a thing of beauty. They argued. They huffed. They stomped their feet. But in the end, they left. The next day, Olivia posted a long, tearful video about how I had abandoned my family on Christmas and left children out in the cold. My comment section exploded with relatives, old family friends, and even a few distant coworkers weighing in. Some were furious, some thought it was hilarious, and some shockingly agreed with me. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent Christmas with a few close friends. We cooked a simple dinner, played board games, and laughed until midnight. It was the best Christmas I'd had in years, and I knew, without a doubt, I had finally taken my life back. For the first time in years, Christmas had been mine. No screaming kids, no passive-aggressive comments from mom, no unpaid labor disguised as family togetherness. Just peace, good food, and the kind of laughter that didn't leave me exhausted by the end of the night. But the real gift came after the holidays, when my family realized I wasn't kidding about setting boundaries. After Olivia's dramatic "I was abandoned on Christmas" post, I braced myself for a full-blown guilt campaign. Passive-aggressive texts, tearful voicemails, maybe even a letter from mom written in her best disappointed handwriting. But nothing happened. No calls, no texts, no sudden pop-up visits. At first, I thought it was the calm before the storm, like they were just waiting for me to cave and call them first. But weeks passed, then months, and the silence stretched on. It was eerie. At first, I felt a tiny bit guilty. Not because I regretted what I did. Oh, hell no. But because, for the first time in my life, my family had actually taken a step back. No one was hounding me for favors. No one was expecting me to drop everything for them. I wasn't sure what to do with that kind of freedom. So I did the only logical thing. I enjoyed it. The next time Jason texted me, it wasn't to guilt trip me about Christmas. It wasn't even to make small talk. "Jason, hey, Clara and I are taking the kids to Disney next month. Want to come?" I stared at my phone. A vacation invite? Not a demand, not a guilt trip. It felt so weird. Me, nah, I'm good, but have fun. And just like that, he said okay and moved on. No, why not? No, but the kids want to see you. No, you're so selfish. Just okay. That's when it hit me my family had actually learned something. After years of pushing me, of walking all over my time and energy, they had finally gotten the message. I wasn't their doormat anymore. And it felt damn good. Of course, not everyone took it so well. Mom, she hated it. I knew she wasn't happy about the way Christmas had played out, but for months she didn't say anything. Until one day, completely out of the blue, she called me. "Megan," she started, her voice sickly sweet. "How have you been? We haven't talked in so long." I leaned back in my chair. "I've been great. You?" She let out a dramatic sigh. "Oh, you know me. Just keeping busy. Family keeps me busy." I smirked. "Ah, there it is. By the way," she added, "your cousin Jen is getting married this summer. The whole family's going. It's going to be so wonderful." I already knew where this was going. And guess where the bridal shower is going to be? She continued, her voice dripping with expectation. I sighed. "Mom, at your place." I actually laughed. "No, it's not," she gasped, like I had just personally ruined the wedding. "Megan, it's just one weekend." "That's what you said about Christmas," the first reminded her. "And look how that turned out." "Well, I just thought you'd want to be part of the family again." There it was, the classic "you're the problem" strategy. I rolled my eyes. "Mom, I am part of the family. I just don't want my house to be a free event space. Tell Jen congratulations, but she'll have to pick somewhere else." She huffed. "Well, I see you're still holding a grudge." "No grudge," I said. "Just boundaries." That's when she snapped. "I just don't understand you, Megan. You have all this space, no husband, no kids. What are you even doing with your life?" I took a deep breath. I could have argued. I could have explained again that my life wasn't less valuable just because I wasn't drowning in PTA meetings and diaper bags. But I didn't. Because I finally realized she didn't want to understand me. So I just said, "Love you, Mom. Talk to you later." And I hung up. The next Christmas came faster than I expected. No surprise texts. No unexpected visitors. Just pure, uninterrupted peace. This time I planned exactly what I wanted. I invited a few close friends. We cooked together, exchanged small gifts, drank wine, and played board games until 2 a.m. And you know what? It was the best Christmas the first had ever had. No stress, no expectations. Just people who actually wanted to spend time with me. Not because they needed something, but because they valued me. That's when I knew, without a doubt, that I had done the right thing. I had set boundaries. I had taken back control. And for the first time in my life, my family finally understood something. I wasn't here to make their lives easier. I was here to live mine. And that was the best gift I had ever given myself. A few weeks after Christmas, I got a text from Olivia. Olivia, okay, I get it now. Hosting sucks. I blinked. Me. What? Olivia. Mom convinced me to host this year. It was a nightmare. I burst out laughing. Me? Oh? You don't say? Olivia, I take back everything. You were right. Never again. Victory had never tasted so sweet. Story 2. At our home, which is tucked away on the outskirts of a large metropolis. It was a normal Thursday night. Tom and I had become accustomed to our daily routine. After a long day at his car repair shop, he was relaxing on the couch with a beer, as well as myself. Nora, staring at my laptop, following the most recent developments in stocks and cryptocurrencies. Our house. We chose this charming two-story because it promises a family and a future. Seemed more like a battlefield for our lives, which were becoming more and more different. How did the market do today? Although it was lighthearted, I could feel the strain behind Tom's question. We had become used to it. As usual, UPS and downs. However, cryptocurrency is looking promising. In an attempt to maintain harmony, I answered. Tom snorted and pushed his beard down a bit too hard. Crypto once again. Nora, you are aware that not all glitter is gold. With a sigh, I shut down my laptop and prepared for the exchange we had had so many times. Even though not every automobile that enters your business is worth mending, you still do it because you think it has potential. Why are you unable to see the importance of what I'm doing? Since automobiles are real, you can mend them, touch them, and sell them on what you're doing, Nora. Squandering our money in the hopes that it would return with more. It's simply careless. I could feel the rage rising. The same old dispute. Thinned. Careless. Tom, it's not careless. It's planned. Gambling and investing are two different things. I wish you had made an effort to comprehend that. Tom got up and paced. It's now computed. Do you think it's calculated to invest our hard-earned money in something as erratic as cryptocurrency? I don't go in blind, so yes, I do. I conduct research, examine patterns, and make well-informed choices. It's the same as what you do with your store. Nora, my shop is certain to succeed. Auto repairs are always necessary. However, this is only a stage. When it collapses, what happens next? Any investment has the potential to lose money. Tom, the store could falter. There are no guarantees. However, my investments have yielded positive returns. Doesn't that have some value? In exasperation, Tom stopped pacing and ran a hand through his hair. Nora, it's not only about the cash. It has to do with safety. Regarding not squandering everything on a pointless coin toss. How come we can't put more money into the store? Extend it. We can put all of our eggs in one basket and build our money in a real, practical way like that. What would happen to the store? Tom, the secret is diversification. That's the fundamentals of investment. He gave a head shake. The disparity between our viewpoints is as wide as ever. Diversification, yes, but into a steady entity. Not like this fairy dust in digital form. I felt compelled to stand up and protect my individuality and choices. You know, you're incredibly narrow-minded for someone who owns his own company. You're also shockingly unyielding, he fired back. What I'm trying to convey is that we could use that money to construct something long-lasting. Not just numbers on a screen, but something we can see and feel. As usual, the conversation was stalling. All right, let's just agree to disagree. You don't criticize my investments, and I won't criticize the way you operate your store. Tom let out a sigh, his strength ebbing away. All right, just keep that in mind, Nora. When everything blows up in your face, do not claim that I did not warn you. There were other strains in our life besides the conflict between Tom and myself. The dynamics of his family introduced still another level of intricacy. Being near his parents and sister meant that we had to interact frequently, which served as a reminder of our divergent perspectives on duty and family. Tom proposed that we go see his folks on a Sunday afternoon. My stomach did not growl at the mere thought. I didn't mind the parents. It was Tom's sister, Sarah. I was often confused by her choices and way of life. We haven't seen them in a very long time, Nora. Come on. In addition, your mother has been inquiring about you. Dad is battling cancer, you know. Tom saw my hesitancy and urged, Sarah has probably missed it. I agree. I mumbled my irony. Not lost on Tom. I understand that you two are not on the same page, but could you please just try? I sighed in agreement. All okay, but I'm leaving. We arrived to find Sarah already there, showing off her newest expensive bag if she begins one of her stories about shopping sprees. I was immediately annoyed by the superiority complex she exuded like a perfume. Take a look at this. I only received it yesterday. Isn't it simply amazing? She hardly acknowledged our presence as she gushed. I was able to utter it while holding my tongue. Unaware of the atmosphere, Tom's mother invited us in. I'm so happy you could make it, Nora, my love. You two ought to go together more frequently. Sarah dominated the discussion as the afternoon went on, sharing her most recent shopping and vacation experiences. I made an effort to maintain a neutral expression and said little, but I was becoming impatient. Are you still tinkering with your stocks and wagers, Nora? Sarah's tone was brimming with contempt as she hissed. Sarah, it's called investing. Instead of wasting money on unnecessary items, give it a try someday. I fired back, my frustration showing. I got a warning glance from Tom, but it was too late. Sarah laughed. Investing, please. Is there anything to boast about, such as gambling on the internet? At least I have something to show for my money when I spend it. Something to display before it becomes outdated the next season. I couldn't help but respond. Tom's father interrupted, his voice harsh. That's enough, both of you. We're not here to quarrel over whatever this is. We're here to enjoy one another's company. As we departed, the remainder of the visit was spent in awkward silence. Tom was so frustrated that he lost control. Why must you provoke her, Nora? Are you unable to put it aside for a single afternoon? Me? Set her off? It all began because of her rude comments. I just will not sit there and accept it. Tom, for the sake of peace, I simply wish you would try a little harder occasionally. Make a greater effort. I'm not the one who indulges in luxury and then shows it off to everyone, Tom. She acts like a spoilt brat, so why doesn't anyone advise her to stop? As she is a member of the family. Nora, even if we don't always agree with what they're doing, we watch out for one another. Tom, that's exactly it. Supporting one another is one thing, but condoning inappropriate behavior is quite another. It's time for someone to let her know that there is a difference. Tom let out a sigh, his voice revealing his fatigue. I understand, but what are we able to do? In her ways, she said. Furthermore, neither her parents will alter their treatment of her. Tom, it's not only about Sarah, it's also about us. Given that there will always be a financial void in your family, how are we to make plans for the future? We will work things out. We always do, Nora. The news hit us hard and quickly. Mr. Harrison, Tom's father, had lost his fight against cancer. We seemed to be talking about treatment choices 1 minute, and then, in the middle of the shock and anguish, we were thrown into mourning. Sarah, Tom's sister, took control of the funeral arrangements. It wasn't long before she sprung a surprise on us regarding the cost. Sitting in our living room, looking like a thundercloud, had descended over his head. Tom relayed what Sarah had told him. Nora, Sarah thinks the funeral's going to cost $60,000. She's expecting us to chip in half. I nearly choked on my $60,000, Tom. That's absurd. Are we sponsoring a burial or a royal wedding here? Tom's face clouded, his eyes narrowing. Now's not the time, Nora. This isn't about the money. It's about giving my dad the send-off he deserves. But $60,000? There has to be a mistake. It's too much. Too much. Tom's voice increased and I could see the vein in his forehead starting to pulse. My dad has recently died, Nora. And here you are, bargaining over cents. What's wrong with you? I trembled at his severity. I'm not haggling, Tom. I'm simply stunned. We never even spent that type of money on our own house. Tom jumped up hastily, his chair scrapping against the floor. What do you know? I don't need this. I don't need you telling me what's too much for my own father's funeral. If you can't look past your blasted spreadsheets for once, maybe you should just stay out of it. The anguish from his words hit deep, but I suppressed my answer. This was sadness talking, not my Tom. I apologize. Tom, I'll send the $30,000 to Sarah. It's simply... This is a lot to process. Tom paced the room, hands buried in his hair, a gesture of fury I'd grown to understand over the years. Yeah, well, it's not just about the money, Nora. It's about doing right by him. And if it means paying whatever it costs, then so be it. When I verified the move to Sarah, Tom scarcely acknowledged it, lost in his own world of sadness and hatred. The space between us felt like miles, not the few feet of our living room. Walking inside the funeral agency, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. The last few days had been a blur of grief and confusion, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to learn. I'm here for Mr. Harrison's funeral, I announced to the woman behind the counter, trying to keep my voice steady. She glanced up from her computer, her expression remorseful. I'm sorry, ma'am, but you're a day late. Mr. Harrison was cremated yesterday. My heart stopped. What? But how? I was told the funeral was today. She shook her head gently, her eyes full of sympathy. The family requested to move the date forward. I'm very sorry for your loss and the confusion. I stood there dumbfounded, my mind racing. How could Tom not tell me? Why was I left in the dark about such a significant change? Fuming, I dialed Tom's number, my fingers shaking with anger and disbelief. Tom, why the hell didn't you tell me the funeral was moot? I just showed up like an idiot only to find out I missed everything. Tom's voice was cold, detached because I didn't think you cared. Nora, all you've done is complain about the costs and question every decision. Why would I think you'd want to be there? Because he was my father-in-law? Because I'm your wife? How could you just exclude me like that? My voice cracked a mixture of hurt and fury. Well, maybe not for long. He shot back, and I could almost hear the bitterness seeping through the foam. What's that supposed to mean? I demanded, my heart sinking. I'm done. Nora, I can't do this anymore. I can't be with someone who's so indifferent. You're more concerned with your bitcoins and shares than with this family. I've got the divorce papers ready. His words were like a slap in the face. Divorce? Was he serious? You're kidding, right? Over this. Tom, we can talk about it. We can work things out. No, Nora, it's too late. The house is going up for sale. We'll split it and go our separate ways. That's it. I was speechless. The truth of the situation coming down on me. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be. Stunned, I strolled back to the parking lot where I spotted Sarah driving a brand new luxury automobile. The sight of that made my blood boil. Nice vehicle. Sarah, where do you acquire the money for this inheritance? Her grin didn't reach her eyes as she flung her hair back. Yeah, something like that. Dad left me a tiny stuff. The casual manner. She mentioned her father with shopping bags in her hands, and not a shred of emotion on her face was aggravating. A little bit. Looks like grieving is treating you fairly nicely. Sarah. Smile disappeared, replaced with a sneer. Well, we all grieve in our own ways, don't we? Some of us invest in equities and some of us in vehicles. I tightened my hands, the unfairness of it all searing inside me. This was all wrong. Tom and I were coming apart. And here was Sarah, profiting from the pandemonium. Enjoy the automobile, Sarah. Looks like it cost a fair cent. Or should I say a lovely dollar? She laughed. A hollow sound that resonated throughout the empty parking lot. Oh, Nora, always so anxious about the money. Do not be concerned. It's all been taken care of. I watched her go away, her laughter hanging in the air. The man I loved had nothing to do with me, and the family I had sought to be a part of was exposing their real colors. The days following the funeral seemed like wading through a dense cloud of denial and betrayal. The weight of the divorce papers in my luggage felt like lugging a boulder, a daily reminder of my collapsing marriage. But the sight of Sarah's new expensive automobile created a seed of doubt that I couldn't get off, determined to get to the bottom of it. I decided to make a visit to the funeral home, hoping to unearth some answers. Walking into the funeral parlor, a mix of mistrust and resolve fueled my movements. It was odd being here under these conditions, but I wanted answers. The area was silent, the air infused with a seriousness suiting its mission. At the reception, I recognized a face from the past. Jackie, a classmate from high school who'd found up in the most unexpected of locations. Jackie, I yelled a touch too loudly for the setting. I didn't know you worked here. She looked up, astonished, flitting over her features before realization sank her. Nora, well, it's been ages. What brought you here? Something I can assist with. I took a long breath, steeling myself for the debate ahead. Yeah, really, it's about my father-in-law's funeral. I heard it was organized here. Jackie's attitude went professional, although there was a glimmer of intrigue in her gaze. Yes, let me pull up the facts. Give me a bag. As she rode away, I fidgeted, the weight of the situation pushing down on me. The instant she found the record, her brows wrinkled. Okay, here it is. The service was quite ordinary. Cremation was desired, keeping things on the simplest side. The sum came to $5,000. My heart fell. $5,000. But that's not what we were told. We paid $60,000. Or at least we were taught to believe that's what it cost. Jackie hesitated, her face a mask of worry. That's a tremendous difference. It was Sarah who handled the preparations perfectly. Everything here was billed at $5,000. No more. The parts were starting to come together. A picture I didn't want to see. Can you print me a copy of that bill? I need proof. Sure stuff, Jackie said in a compassionate tone. Holding the paper, she hastily printed off a copy of the check and gave it to me. It had the feel of a puzzle piece that would reveal a larger lie. Regards, Jackie. I have to figure this out. My next goal, armed with the funeral home printout, was to confront Sarah and the rest of the family. Driving to my mother-in-law's house, where I knew everyone would be together, most likely talking about the estate and the funeral's aftermath, made the air seem heavy. A mixture of fear and resolve made my stomach turn. The place was extremely silent when I got there. Gathering my confidence, I paused at the entrance before entering. As I entered the living room, my footsteps appeared to reverberate throughout the hallway. Sitting there, Tom, Sarah, and my mother-in-law appeared to be a picture of grief that was about to be destroyed. The hush was broken by my mother-in-law, whose eyes were broken with sorrow. First, we missed you at the funeral yesterday, dear. We expected you to be present. I took a deep breath and answered. It was today, I was informed. I sincerely apologize for your loss. My voice remained constant in spite of my internal emotional shift. Then I looked at Tom. Can we have a private conversation? I don't want to cause his mom any more pain. Tom's answer shattered the silence. There are no mysteries here. You are no longer a member of this family. Do you recall? Even though his remarks hurt, I persisted and took the check out of the mortuary. Then tell me about this. $5,000 was spent on the funeral, not $60,000, Sarah asserted. Where were the others? Tom appeared truly surprised, looking with confusion at Sarah. What's going on here? Sarah writhed beneath our eyes. I needed the cash. At last, she confessed. She said in a low voice, until Tom's mother overheard and added, Your father saved for his own farewell. The revelation appeared to linger. In order to cover everything, I even handed Sarah an additional $10,000. As the anxiety increased, I performed the calculations aloud. Only $5,000 was spent out of a total of $70,000. Where's the rest, Sarah? Feeling agitated, Sarah admitted to using the funds to buy a new automobile for herself. Her eyes darted off, unwilling to look into mine. I thought Tom would blow out, but instead he told Sarah in a kind way, that was a bad thing for you to do. Next time, exercise greater caution. I was astounded by his reaction. Be cautious. She was dishonest. Tom, and you don't mind that? Tom's explanation left me speechless. You wouldn't comprehend. You don't have any relatives. You don't understand the importance of sticking together. For all of them, that was the final straw. I flourished as I signed the divorce papers. You owe me $30,000, Sarah. I'll call the cops if you don't pay. I didn't turn around, but Tom's protests followed me out the door. I had witnessed enough suffering. Both the treachery and my resolve were complete. The gravity of what I had done hit in as I turned to go. There was no turning back. From here, only forward, away from the deception and lies that had tainted what I had once considered to be family. It was strange to pack my life into boxes, as if I were seeing my own narrative unfold. The house's for sale sign served as a sobering reminder that everything was final. By the afternoon, I was getting used to a tiny apartment that felt more like a new beginning than a regression. My phone rang that night while I was going through the relics of my previous existence. Tom's name, which I no longer identified with, flashed on the screen. Curiosity overcame resentment as I replied, Nora, you need to back off, Sarah. Tom's voice came through, tinged with an uncharacteristic harshness. Back off. I laughed, cold and sharp. Not a chance, Tom. She took from me, and I want it back. Your sister's a thief. Tom was silent for a moment. She's family. You wouldn't comprehend. Family? I scoffed. That ship has sailed. Tom, as far as I'm concerned, you and your sister are just people I used to know. He tried to argue, but I cut him off. Save it. Sarah has 2 weeks to return my money or I'm pressing charges and you stay out of it. You're nothing to me now. Hanging up, I felt a mix of sadness and liberation. The man I once loved was now just another obstacle in my path to reclaiming my life. 2 weeks later, a knock at my door heralded the return of my $30,000. Sarah stood there, her posture defiant, a sneer playing on her lips. Here's your money, she spat, thrusting an envelope into my hands. Happy now? You money-grubbing witch. I took the envelope, my gaze steady. It's not about the money, Sarah. It's about principle. About not letting you walk all over people. She laughed, hollow and bitter. Whatever helps you sleep at night. As she turned to leave, I called out, just remember, Sarah, karma's a tremendous pain. What goes around comes around. Closing the door, I leaned against it, the envelope heavy in my hand. The money was a little accomplishment, but the true success was sticking up for myself. Refusing to be a victim of their greed and falsehoods, life had acquired a new beat, calmer and more predictable. When out of the blue, my phone rang, displaying a number I hadn't seen in a while. It was Tom, a voice from a past I had neatly put away. Hey, I need a favor, a large one. Tom's voice seemed more weathered than I recalled. I halted, the suddenness of the call throwing me a favor. Tom, we're past favors, don't you think? It's Sarah. She's in deep this time. Debt's up to her eyes and the wolves are at the door. We've sold everything. The house, the shop, it's still not enough. His remarks took a time to take in. And you're phoning me? Why? I'm not part of this circus anymore. Tom, he sighed, a sound of despair. Come on, don't be like that. You got out. Made it big with your trading. Can't you spare something for old time's sake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, he still regarded me as a lifeline for their disaster. Spare something for her after she nearly wrecked us with her falsehoods. You've got some nerve, Tom. It's not only for her, it's for all of us. You wouldn't be where you are without me. Don't forget that, he countered, his voice tinged with venom. Olaf, crisp and short, evaded me. Where I am is despite you. Not because of you. You believe I owe you? That's rich. There was silence on the line, heavy and unpleasant. So that's all then? You're going to turn your back on us? Us? There is no us, Tom. There hasn't been for a long time. And as for turning my back, I guess you've got me mistaken with someone who still cares. Hanging up, I felt a combination of feelings. Anger, definitely, but also relief. That chapter of my life was definitely closed. Now, sitting in the living room of my new house, a place I had won with my sweat and smarts, I realized how far I had come. This was my haven, constructed not on the unstable underpinnings of lying and manipulation, but on my strength and hard work. Story 3. Since the birth of Lily, things have changed. Mark's face used to light up whenever I entered a room. If I managed to extract a grunt out of him before he buried his nose in his phone again, I'm lucky. Something in him changed the day we brought her home, yet his work is still the same, and may even be less stressful than it was before. One more painting. Grace, what is that? This week's third. Mark would watch me set up my easel and his voice would grasp the air, scornful and harsh. He once had my greatest painting displayed in his office since he liked my work. No more. Yes. Therefore, it's not as though I'm wasting your cash. I'm dancing while concentrating on blending the blues and yellows on my palette so he won't see the shaking in my hands. However, every word he spoke seemed like a blow. I could have been duped. And have a look at this location. It appears to be a tornado. Strike it. He would look around the room, examining every toy and blanket that wasn't in its proper position and holding them up as proof of my shortcomings. Look, Lily is a handful, and I spend my entire day with her. I would suppress my voice. Not as stable as I'd hoped. And perhaps if you might provide a hand here. What can you help with? You're always at home. You handle it. That was our agreement. Keep in mind that I earn the money. The rest is up to you. It's not my fault. You are unable to control. There would be no dispute because he would shut me off. He turned aside and dismissed me with a scarf at the end of each night. Lily would pull at the hem of my shirt as he went for work, her little eyes making her father furious. Her little lips would tremble at the idea of asking, Right now, baby daddy is simply thinking about a lot of things. Assist mom in selecting the colors. Yes, I bite her palm to pick out colors as I attempt to smile for her as I draw her into my arms. We paint together, and for a time, her laughter and our common color world would overpower the resentment in Mark's voice. I knew my paintings were wonderful because they were all I had left over from a period when I felt energetic and self-assured, not because I was arrogant. When Mark got home that night, I did what I always did. I made an effort to welcome him with a hot meal, a tidy home, and Lily in her finest pajamas, just out of the shower. With the aroma of roast chicken following me, I said, "Hey, how did your day go?" In response, he shrugged off his coat and tossed it over the couch with a grunt. His gaze met mine, then shifted to the easel that was positioned in our living room's corner. "Still haven't gotten rid of that rubbish. It's not junk, Mark. I'm working on something," I said. The exhaustion seeping through seems like a waste of time and money. "You might be doing something constructive, you know." He strode by me to the fridge, not waiting for a response. Productive appeared to mean everything that earned money or made his life simpler. I wasn't doing either to his liking. I guessed. "I am doing something," I added, my voice stronger. "Now I'm raising our kid and keeping our house, and I'm trying to cling on to something that means to me. My painting means to me." Mark, he didn't even pause, just pulled up a drink and drank deeply. "Call it what you wish. Grace to me. Looks like you're just filling time, making a mess. I'll have to pay someone to clean up." I felt the stain, not from the unkindness of the words. I was getting used to that, but from the discarding of my aspirations, my desire. There wasn't a place for them in Mark's universe anymore. "Dinner's ready," I shouted out in what felt like a weekly performance, standing with shaky hands as I delivered the lunch. Mark's parents sat like judges at the head of the table, scarcely acknowledged my attempt to produce a warm, hearty supper. Their eyes were fixated on the easel beside the window. "What's this then?" Mark's dad, George, a large guy with a voice that dominated the room, poked a finger towards my incomplete artwork. "Oh, that's just something Grace has been toying around with." Mark chuckled, waving a dismissive hand before taking a seat. "Real high-class things, right?" Laughter boomed out and it tickled at my nerves. Laughter that didn't reach their eyes. We're an artist now, are we?" chimed in Mark's mom, Patricia, her voice a type of keen that could slice steel. "Why don't you show us your latest creation, dear?" George screamed, his smile more of a challenge than a show of interest. I stood fixed to the spot, feeling the flesh creep up my neck. "It's not done yet," I said, but Mark was already walking up to the canvas, snatching it with less care than he'd take with a dish towel. "Look at this, guys." Mark chuckled, swinging the canvas over like he was Vanna White, displaying a letter on Wheel of Fortune. "It's meant to be a landscape. Can you believe it?" George's laughter burst loud again. "Looks like a blind dog's nightmare," Patricia tooted, shaking her head, her nostrils flaring with each chortle. "Why waste your time with this hobby? Get a job or do something, anything productive." "As if any place would hire her," Mark snorted, setting the painting back with a thud. That made my heart sink. The job market's tough out there and, well, look at her. I swallowed hard, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "I do plenty. I take care of Lily and this house," and my words faltered under their collective stare. Patricia poked at the food with her fork as if she suspected it was poisoned. "Taking care of your family is the least you can do," she sniffed. "But honestly, Mark, if you'd married someone with a little ambition," they went on, tearing strips off me with every word, while I just stood there. The room closed in their words, pressing on my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. I felt myself slipping away, becoming smaller, insignificant in this grand performance of theirs. Something in me snapped as soon as the meal ended, with a fake tremor in my voice. I excused myself, marched up the stairs, not looking back, and locked myself in the bedroom. "Grace." Mark's voice climbed up the stairs, maybe half an hour later, cracking through the door. "You coming back down? We need to clear the table." I didn't respond. I couldn't if I opened my mouth. A scream or a sob would have come out, and I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of hearing my break. I scrolled through my bank app, a frown etching deeper lines on my face. Our account was looking dire again this month, and the grocery list wasn't getting any shorter. Lily needed new shoes too. She was sprouting like a weed. Mark's voice tumbled in from the living room. "Grace, Why is there a charge for $48.95 for Martin's art supplies? Just picked up a few things, I said, tapping through the app to transfer what remained of my personal savings to cover it. I needed them. Needed. Come on, Grace. That's money we could have put towards something important, isn't it? His voice was flat, bored, even with a hint of something else. Was it disappointment? Frustration? The first side. Art is important to me, Mark, the same way your golf is important to you. I didn't mention the fact that his golf clubs cost more than a year's worth of my supplies. Yeah, but golf is networking. It's part of my job. What does your painting get us? A cluttered house and wasted cash, he said, grumbling. It gets me through the day, I murmured, feeling that old, familiar tug of war in my chest. Mark snorted through the day. We have to be smart about money, not to spend it on whatever gets us through the day. Budget, Grace, budget. That word felt like a choke chain. I pay for my art supplies with my own money. Mark, the money I had before. I trailed off, not wanting another fight. My before was a long-gone chapter, one that contained a job independence and a once-shared dream of my own gallery. Your money's our money, isn't it? He shot back the insinuation that my financial independence was history, clear in his tone, and that your money's running out fast. What then? Later at the store, I chose the cheaper brands, counting every cent, every compromise with the rest. I bought the smallest tubes of paint, the ones I could slide into the cart without raising attention. Back home, I unloaded the suitcases with robotic care, everything a monument to our tightrope dance above financial doom, putting back some indulgences. Are we? Mark said, his attention resting on the no-name cereal and store brand spaghetti. Indeed. Tightening the belt, I responded without looking at him, hiding the invoices, a paper trail of my misdeeds. He hummed, digging through the luggage like an investigator, waiting for a slip-up. Where are the Greek yogurts you like? And isn't this the cheap coffee? I shrugged, busying myself with placing a can of tomatoes in the pantry. Prices went risen. I had to make some cutbacks. Don't notice any reduction in your art budget, though, he murmured, a frigid finger pointing out the fresh brushes. I had fallen under a loaf of bread. I looked to him, seeing his eyes for the first time since the talk began. This keeps me sane, Mark. My art keeps me sane. My voice was solid, and I curled my fingers around the tabletop to suppress the shaking in my palm. Well, sanity's quite the expensive item these days. He motioned towards the brushes, his remarks purposeful, sharp. That night I painted not out of enthusiasm but irritation. Each stroke was a struggle, a reduction from our own budget to fit it inside the limits of Mark's expectations. But while I worked, I remembered a time when these brushes were a delight to handle, not a weapon I had to protect. Mark was halfway across the nation, tied up in business trip meetings when he decided to put the newest duty on me. His voice buzzed over my phone, seeming like he was almost out the door before he even completed his statement. Grace, you had to get together a birthday present for my boss's wife, Clara. Her important day's in a week. Okay, do you have any funds saved up for that? I questioned, looking at our already tight budget on my laptop screen. Nah, you figure it out. Just make it appear like we put some effort into it, he mumbled, sounding preoccupied. Hang on, you want anything nice? But I meant to magic up the bucks for it. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. You always find a way to make it happen, Grace. And with that joyful little sentence, he was gone. I let out a long, steady breath, closing my eyes and attempting to push back the irritation biting at every last nerve. Didn't have the funds, but I wanted something that would knock Clara's socks off. No pressure, right? After a thorough dive into Clara's online world, it was evident. She had a thing for art. Her account was full with gallery visits, photographs of canvases that presumably cost more than her car. She even had images with artists, talked about supporting the arts, patronage, and all that nonsense. And thought flared, and I caught it before it could flame out of my consciousness. Artwork for myself. I had the paints. I had the canvas. I certainly as heck had the motive. I'd offer Clara something no one else could, not off some major street. I twirled the concept in my thoughts, letting it settle. I could imagine the brushstrokes immediately, feel the pull of bristles against canvas. It would be personal, and it would be free. Bonus. A painting then. Decision made. I was going to need every minute of every day, if it was going to look anything like the type of material Clara uploaded. I brought out my old easel, put it up in the living room, and went to work all the while. Fingers crossed that my small bit of originality will cut it in the high-stakes world of business. Birthday presents, day one postmarks, bombshell, and standing in the midst of my temporary studio, a section of the dining room I've cleaned out, pushing the table against the wall, the early light flowing in, kind of accentuating the mess of my creative tools, sprawled all around. Mommy, what's all this? Lily, my 6-year daughter, parks herself right in the thick of the pandemonium, her eyes as round as the splattered paint drips on the floor. Mommy's got to create a birthday present, baby. I respond, digging through old brushes with bristles harsher than my back feels for who. She picks up a brush, scrutinizing the crusty edges like a pro for a lady daddy works with. I explain, taking the brush from her before it becomes a makeshift sword or fairy wand. Lily's brow scrunches up in perplexity. But why can't daddy purchase something? Lily, go watch your cartoons, will ya? I need to consider I'm not in the mood to untangle the complexity of our bank account. Or my marriage to a kindergartner. Grumbling something beneath her breath, sounding too much like me for comfort. She trots off to the living room, leaving me to my quandary. The week grinds by. I'm doing double shifts. Daytime mother, evening Picasso. The canvas starts to fill, taking on a life of its own. Something abstract, something that feels kind of like the whirlwind. That's my life recently. I don't hear a peep from Mark. No check-in calls, not even an SMS inquiring how it's doing. Guess he's too wrapped up in his charts and transactions and whatever he does that's too important to phone his wife. Lily, on the other hand, is my small shadow, always crawling back to watch me paint. You're extremely excellent, Mama, she says on day 4. You should sketch something more. I grin since that's probably the nicest review I'll ever get. Think so? Maybe I will. The night before the big reveal, the painting's finally looking back at me. Done. It's not just art. It's everything I haven't been able to say or do, all spilled out onto canvas. I can't sleep that night, tossing and turning, yet spinning in my thoughts. What if Clara dislikes it? What if Mark feels I've wasted my time? What if? However, the morning is bright and clear. The artwork is finished. Simple brown parcel things. No fancy paper, but tidy. Lily made a lovely bow out of her hair. Ribbons. For what reason? So there I was, tightly encircling a box during the boss's wife's birthday celebration. I thought the artwork would be well received. With low eyes, I moved through the crowd, thinking I might disappear into the wallpaper. Mark was also present. He had just arrived from a recent vacation and looked like the man with everything save the trophy wife, who was picture perfect. His gaze went across the women, all of them immaculate in their cocktail dresses, before settling like a ton of bricks on me. He had that expression on his face as if he had just taken a bite out of a lemon. He gave me a thorough examination and shook his head just enough for me to notice. The room dimmed somewhat. I could only hear my heartbeat in my ears, as if someone had turned down the volume on the party. Then, his eyes focused on the package, wrapped and tucked into my unsteady hand. Oh, wow. I recognized that look as his eyes blazed. Even before the first word was spoken, I could see the storm building. What is that? He hardly managed to cover his mouth as he spat, as though to protect both the package and myself from the impending danger. I drew it closer. It's a present. My artwork. His voice roared a picture before the words had a chance to linger. Are you serious? It was noisy. It was loud enough to draw some attention to us. I tried using my eyes to show him, but he didn't care. Do you really believe that this is acceptable? To give her some amateur time. Around us, the murmurs began, as if they were the first drops of rain. Soft, but becomes more powerful. Please, Mark, not in this place, I pleaded. Something terrible is burning up my cheeks. Have you gone insane? The room didn't just pause when he yelled. It went cold. By now, you make us appear foolish. The main event was us. The gaze shifted to us, then back again, as if they were watching a game of tennis. I wished I could melt into the floorboards as I shrank. He had a red face that I had only ever seen at traffic lights. Fantastic. Just great grace, he said, raising his hands in frustration. You're not thinking, are you? I could tell I was blushing and not in a cute way by the heat in my face. Even though my hands were shaking, I held the painting closer because there wasn't anything else to cling to. I inhaled and tried to recall why I believed this to be a good idea. Everyone will now try to outdo us. If anyone was still acting as though they weren't listening, he added, thanks to you and your dumb idea, which was as sharp as a knife. My jaw dropped. Words that are about to spill out, to protect, or simply to instruct him to insert a sock. However, what could be said, with the burning holes in us the size of a room, I just stood there instead. He referred to me as a fool, hoping that the earth would swallow me whole. Following Mark's outburst, the laughter was like daggers. I got the boss's attention despite the room spinning. He was simply observing his wife, Clara, in silence, his face showing some sort of bewilderment. Her frown, which was half intrigued and half worried, actually gave me hope. Amidst the commotion, Clara gestured with her hand. Everyone, please be quiet. Let's check out what Grace has to offer. I proceeded automatically. They tore the paper from the canvas, and my hand is still a little unsteady. The colors and shapes that I had spent nights pouring myself into just kind of poured out into the room. Claire's eyebrows shot up. Oh my, she said, and the room hushed like they were waiting for her to drop the hammer. But then she continued. This is quite something, Grace. Mark was still fuming by my side. Yes, something all right. I ignored him and searched Clara's face for some sign. It's for you, I mumbled. Happy birthday. She tilted her head, studying the painting like it was a puzzle. It's bold. I like bold, don't you, darling? She nudged her husband, pulling him into this. The boss was a tough guy to read, but he nodded. Don't see stuff like that every day. Mark tried to jump back in. Oh, come on, you're saying you like this mess? And there it was, the snap in Clara's voice as she turned to him with a squint. Mark, I'd watch it if I were you. Your wife has skill, and I won't have you disgrace her any further. It's unseemly. The room slipped into this tense kind of stillness, the kind where you could hear someone sneeze 3 houses down. Look at the colors, the mood in it. Clara was saying, now it's got life. Mark attempted for a save. Well, fine, if you enjoy that type of stuff. But Clara cut him off. I do. It's decided. This goes right in the foyer. I blinked. Was this genuinely happening? You sure, babe? The boss chimed in. It's not quite. Clara threw him a glance and he drifted off. Standard, right? It's unique. Her arm shot out to me. A beacon in the high heels and pricey outfit. See? Thank you, Grace. This here's a fantastic gift. Folks, it's got soul. And just like that, the murmuring began up again. But they had a distinct tone. People were nodding, some even staring at me with what seemed like admiration. Clara, still holding my drawing like it was a gem, turned her eyes on me again. So, Grace, she added, capturing the room's gaze. Ever thought of displaying your work? Like in a gallery? Mark let out a scoff. I heard everything, but my eyes were drawn on Clara. Nah. Who'd want to view my stuff? Don't worry, Grace. I would. And I know people. Claire. His voice was strong, her gaze keen. Mark attempted to laugh it off. Come on, Clara. She's only dabbling. Clara quirked an eyebrow at him. So she dabbles better than some pros. I know. What's it to you? I gulped, feeling like I was teetering on the verge of something tremendous. I don't know. I've never. What's to know? You leap in. I'll help. Correct. Clara's appearance. Said she wasn't asking. She was telling. A giggle spilled from me. It was tense, a bit crazy sounding even to my own ears. Yes, correct. Clara beamed. Excellent. It settled then. After then, murmurs flitted around like moths to a flame. People who hardly gave me the time of day were now hanging on my arm, talking about my work. It was weird, like strolling through someone else's life. Mark was abruptly there again, his touch on my back nearly scorching. You're not serious about this, are you? There was that edge in his voice, like a dagger threatening to cut. I turned to him, feeling the weight of the crowd, the draw of something new. Yeah, I am. My voice was stronger than it had been in years. He stared at me, really looked at me for the first time that night. But what about us? What about us? Mark, I repeated. We've been over for a longer time than I like to acknowledge. That shook him. He stepped back. I thought we were okay. I turned to face him completely. You thought incorrect. The words were colder than I wanted, but they needed to be spoken. Mark ran a hand through his hair, looking defeated. So what? We simply end it. I gazed down at the color spilled across the nails of my fingers at the rings. That didn't imply what they were intended to anymore. We terminated it a long time ago. Now we're simply making it official." He didn't have anything to say about it. I watched him go away, his shoulders bent. Clara's fingers stroked my shoulder. "You okay, An?" I nodded. "I am thankful to you." She winked. "What are friends for, right? And you, Grace." She paused, giving my shoulder a squeeze. "You're going to light up this town with your art. Just wait." And with that, I felt my heart start to hammer for a whole new set of reasons ahead of me. There wasn't just an ending. There was a beginning. And it was painted in the wildest colors I could conceive. Lily and I, we'd be more than fine. We'd be unabashedly unfaltering, like ourselves.